ABIS, it's Dr. Dace here. I get to read today's chapter of Cryptid Hunters by Roland Smith, and we are ready for chapter 21, While They Slept. Wolf and Laura were spending a miserable night huddled under the rain tarp. At least they've reached the sky house, Wolf said, massaging his stump. He had gotten brief glimpses through the bow cam of them finding the ladder and climbing up the tree. What I don't understand is why they don't answer my calls. Maybe there's a problem with the satellite, Laurel suggested. Or perhaps Marty's gizmo isn't working. I just had that video conference with Phil back on Cryptos, Wolf said. So it's not the satellite. But you have a point about the gizmo. I suspect that Marty's a little rough on electronics. I'm just worried about Butch McCall. I went into the field with him once, and it was a very humbling experience. I'm pretty good in the woods, but Butch is much better than me. A lot better. He looked at Laurel in the dim light. Speaking of which, you're pretty good in the woods yourself. Laurel smiled. Thanks. When Grace and Marty made their unorthodox entry into the Congo, Wolf had considered going after them by himself, thinking that Laurel would slow him down. But she turned out to be a better driver than he was. At the Loboko village, he thought about leaving her behind again. Driving a Humvee was very different from struggling through the jungle, but he was glad he hadn't. She had an uncanny ability to pick the path of least resistance, even when the path looked the least likely to take. He had let her lead the way most of the day. We're making a better time than I thought we would, he said. Laurel nodded, and for a while they lay in silence, listening to the wind and thunder. Tell me more about this girl you met at the Ark, she said. Her name was Rose. Wolf paused. She was Noah Blackwood's daughter. Subject, New Zealand. From Luther_Smith at xlink.com to Marty at ewolf.com. Marty, old mate, I broached the subject of spending the summer with you in New Zealand with my parental units, leaving out the part about us fishing for giant squid and your uncle being a maniac. And they went for it, hook, line, and sinker. Oddly enough, my father owns a chunk of E-Wolf stock, which has been very profitable for him over the years, and he thinks I'm finally moving in the right circles. Ha ha. I hope you and Grace are okay. I would hate to miss out on my New England fishing vacation. Selfishly yours, Luther. Subject, checking in. From Wolf at ewolf.com to Marty at ewolf.com. I've been trying to reach you all evening. I hope you get this. The storm has slowed us down, but we're still making good time. I see that you've arrived at the Sky House. Stay there. As I mentioned to you yesterday, you are not alone. Blackwood has sent a man to find Mazalito. His name is Butch McCall. He's my size, bald, bushy mustache, and very dangerous. I don't think he'll find the Sky House, but if he does, lock the trapdoors and don't let him in. The house can be accessed from the roof, along with a series of cables strung through the canopy. There's a trapdoor in the roof, and you'll need the lock as well. On the roof is a portable generator, water pump, and tank. The pump brings up water from the spring in the clearing. According to Dr. Lee, it is in working order, and there's plenty of fuel. When you get up to the roof, find the Molimo and use it to call Mazalito. I'll feel a lot better when he's with you. Again, stay inside the Sky House. We'll be there as soon as we can. Love, Wolf. Butch McCall was sitting in his gorilla ruined shelter as the storm raged outside. A rare smile appeared on his face as he read the email on the little computer he had found in the boy's pocket. It was dark by the time he had gotten back to camp. The two men he had sent out were sitting in a lean-to made of palm fronds, playing cards on a wet sleeping bag. In back of them lay the third man, who was asleep or dead. Butch didn't care much which. Neither man had seen any sign of Mazalito, but one reported he had felt he was being watched. Butch thought he was probably if this was probably true. He had sensed the same thing a couple days earlier. In fact, he had been hoping that Mazalito would follow him around the lake. This might have given him a chance to grab him. But none of this matters now, Butch thought. The solution to everything lay in the palm of his big, calloused hand. He took the stylus and tapped out a response to Wolf's email on Marty's gizmo. Subject, checking in, from marty@ewolf.com to wolf@ewolf.com. Dear Uncle Travis, sorry you haven't been able to reach us. It took us longer to get to the Sky House than we expected, but we're here now, and this is where we'll stay until you tell us otherwise. Also, the pocket computer isn't working very well. The video conference function doesn't work at all, but the email seems to be working, so we can keep in touch that way. I guess that's it for now, Marty. Butch read the email over and hit the send button. He then took out the satellite phone and he called Noah Blackwood, who answered the first ring and said, "Did you find Mazalito?" "No," Butch answered. "As I told you this morning, Butch, we're running out of time. Wolf is well on his way." I know exactly where Wolf is," Butch said. "It will take him at least 4 days to get here." "You've underestimated Wolf before," Blackwood reminded him. Not this time, Butch thought. He decided not to tell his boss about the little computer, for the time being anyway, but he did tell him about the 2 kids. When he finished, there was a total silence on the other end of the line. It went on for such a long time that Butch thought their connection had been lost because of the storm. "Are you there?" "I'm here," Blackwood said quietly. "What are they doing there?" "I don't know." "How did they get there?" "I don't know." Blackwood knew for a fact that Wolf's niece and nephew had been on the jet with him. He also knew that they were not at the Liboko village. He had people all over the world feeding him information, most of which was very reliable. "Wolf must be at Lake Telly," Blackwood said. "That's the only explanation." "The kids are alone," Butch said, although he didn't know this with certainty. "That's preposterous." Butch had saved his best for last. He described the girl. When he finished, there was an even longer silence. "Are you certain?" Blackwood finally whispered. "Positive. I want her," Blackwood said. "What about the Mokele Membri? And what about the nest?" "That's no longer a priority." It was to Butch. Blackwood had offered a large bonus, and Butch was determined to collect it. He began to protest, but Blackwood cut him off. "You can look for the Mokele Membe after you get the girl." "What am I supposed to do with her?" "Hold her until I get there." "You're coming to Lake Tele?" Blackwood rarely went onto the field anymore unless there was a television crew to film him. "I won't leave until you tell me you have her," Blackwood answered. "But yes, of course I'm coming. And Butch, I don't want her harmed in any way. Do you understand me?" "Yeah, I mean it, Butch." "I hear you. She won't be hurt. What about the boy?" "I don't care about the boy." Wolf read Marty's email out loud to Laura with obvious relief. "I guess you were right about the gizmo." "I'm just glad they're safe," Laurel said. Wolf switched to the bow cam, and a dim picture came on the screen. Grace was curled up in a chair with a blanket over her, holding the stuffed monkey. A tear ran down his cheek and disappeared into his dark beard. "What happened to Rose?" Laurel asked. Wolf closed his eyes. "Mokele Membi killed her." Ooh. Come back tomorrow for the next chapter of Cryptid Hunters.